Welcome all to Selective Prep Power Thinking Skills Test 36. So in this video, we will go through 10 questions that I found relevant in the paper, and we will go through them in detail and explain the solutions for each question. So there'll be a mix of logical style questions as well as worded questions. Let's have a look at the very first one. So this first question was drawing conclusions. Which of the following are true? Remember, in these questions, we always use our highlighter or our pen to underline the main ideas in this question. So the main ideas kind of revolve around the students and how they are traveling to school. So the results show that all students who traveled by bus also traveled by train. So the key word here is all. Remember, these words of high modality, like all, no, all, are useful, whereas words like some or many or little are not as useful because they don't help us in differentiating which one will definitely happen and which one will definitely not. Nonetheless, we can still highlight. So no students traveled by ferry and bus. Some students traveled by car and also took a bus to school. All students who traveled by ferry also took a shuttle. Which one is true? The answer is actually B. And let's test it. There are some students who took the train and a car to school. Okay, the word here, some, gives us a little leeway. Okay, it gives us a bit of flexibility as to allowing this scenario to happen. So let's see if it could happen. So we know that all students who traveled by bus traveled by train. Okay, and also some students who traveled by car also took a bus to school. So by logic, if they traveled by bus, this shared bus, then let's use a different color. Some students who traveled by train must have also traveled by car. Thus, B can be correct. Okay? You can have a look at this solution here if you'd like more information as to why the other ones are wrong. Okay, logical statements. This one, I would like you to write out the possibilities. Okay? So then the first statement, there are more than 14 but less than 19. You can't have half of a bottle, so you can only write out whole numbers between 14 and 19. Those are 15, 16, 17, and 18. Remember, these are non-inclusive, okay? Now, we know that there are more than 17 but less than 21. More than 17 eliminates these options and thus leaves us with only one option, which is 18, and that satisfies both of these statements. Thus, D is the answer here. In this pattern, I always explain to my students that in patterns like this, look at the macro pattern first. Look from far away and see what is going on from afar. In general, you can see that there are three elements that are moving within each other. They're kind of similar. First are these shapes. They are similar. Then we have these long lines. They are similar. Okay? And we also have these crosses, the small crosses. And you can see that the missing one must be a cross pattern. Now, if you break down this pattern, you realize that each one, the number of lines, we have 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines. We have 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines. And here we have 3 crosses and 5 crosses. So the missing number of crosses is 4 crosses. Now, that leaves us between A and C. You can see that the green boxes, they never are all in the corner. Okay, they always form a kind of, this one will form a triangle shape. This one will form that hexagon shape. So we want the crosses to form a diamond shape, kind of replicating this diamond here. So therefore, C is the answer for question 3. Okay, number 4. So this one was a simple Venn diagram question. We have 72 students in the school, okay? If 54 take science, okay, actually that's, and then we have 38 that take maths. You have to understand here, I'm going to use my highlighter. If I count the people who did maths, which is 38, and then I count the people who do science, which is 54, you notice that we have double counted this middle section here. Okay, so actually if you add it up, you get 54 plus 38, 2 carry the 1, 8, 9, 92. Okay, you get 92 here. And 92 is everything added up plus an extra middle bit. So if you minus 72 from 92, you get 20. And that actually represents that extra bit that you plussed, because it must be the difference between that this number here, where you just added the totals of both, and the actual number of people there. So that's why 20 is the answer. So exactly 20 students take both science and mathematics. Number 5. So I usually recommend you to write a table up, but you can actually decide on the option just from the first line. So option A, $4,000 for 1,000 letters. So that means that it's $4 per letter. Option B is $3.90 per letter. So straight away you can tell that option B is better because it's cheaper. If you look at the time it takes to deliver, it is the same. 72 hours is the same as 3 days. Thus C is the answer here. Okay, question 6. Which one can be concluded from the case study below? So I am assuming that you have read this case study already. If you haven't, you can pause the video. So we know that Aiden ate the same as Carl. Okay, Aiden ate the same main as Carl. We also know that Carl ate a vegetarian main. What does that mean? Well, out of the mains that we had, steak, meat pie, and corn soup is the only vegetarian. So that means that Aiden ate the corn soup for main. Now, we know that both Carl and Faraz had the apple juice, okay? Because Carl had apple juice and Faraz also chose apple juice. And we also know that Faraz had the same drink as Aiden, which means that Carl, Faraz, and Aiden all had apple juice as the drink. So, which one would be the answer? The answer is option D. We had corn soup, we had apple juice for Aiden, and Aiden also chose waffles. Okay, so let's use another color actually. Aiden also chose waffles for the dessert. And that's why D is the answer. Matching arguments, which one most closely parallels the reasoning? So reasoning means look at the skeleton of the argument, okay? The content can be changed, but what is the logic? Anyone who can do A can also do B. Somebody can do A, therefore they can do B. The exact same logic applies to D. Everyone or all people that eat chicken A also eat beef B. Somebody, Jackson, eats chicken. He does A. Thus, he eats beef. He does B. Okay, so these keywords are basically the same here. So that's why D is the answer. Oops. Okay, question 8. Assessing the impact of additional evidence. Which of the below statements, if true, most strengthens the government's decision? To find the strengthening of the government's decision, we need to find what the decision is. So the decision here is that they accompany the announcements with sign language interpreters in the Swedish government in light of recent requests. What would support or strengthen this? The answer here is B. 19% of the Swedish population are deaf or partially deaf. Having sign language interpreters will help these people understand the televised announcement. The important announcements, are linked to the televised announcements. Swedish population even has a number for us. Remember, these numbers are always, they give you brownie points because they are supporting with factual evidence. Swedish population, it tells us who, and it's the Swedish population controlled by the Swedish government. Deaf or partially deaf links to the sign language interpreter bit, and explains actually in the next bit that sign language interpreters will help these people. So there's many links to the main arguments that we highlighted. Thus, B is the strongest argument that supports the government's decision. Okay, this one we're finding the odd one out. The pattern was actually involving the cross and the black circle. They have to be of symmetrical basis. What I mean by that, it's a reflective thing, So when you reflect along that axis here, they lie in symmetry. Same as B, they are on the corner, in the corners, they lie in symmetry, and same as D, they lie in symmetry. If you look at C, they do not lie in symmetry, It should be where the white dot is, but instead is on the corner here. So C is the odd one out. And last question for today. It is known that possums with crooked ears are only found in Australia. All animals with crooked ears are nocturnal. All nocturnal animals in Australia can climb trees. So which of the following is true? The answer here is C. If I see an animal with crooked ears which cannot climb trees, then I cannot be in Australia. That is because of these words all, All implies that every single animal in that group must be able to do whatever they claim. First of all, we know that possums with crooked ears are only found in Australia, Only found in Australia. Now, all animals with crooked ears are nocturnal. All nocturnal animals in Australia can climb trees. From these two sentences, we can deduce that all animals with crooked ears in Australia can climb trees. Because all are nocturnal and all nocturnal can climb trees in Australia. So if I see an animal with crooked ears who cannot climb trees, then I cannot be in Australia. This is true because of our very high modality words all, means every single one. So if you were to even see one animal with crooked ears and they cannot climb trees, then you cannot be in Australia. Okay, so that's all the questions for today. We're going to look at some key points of this test. So some key points include, let's talk about patterns, Always start from the macro patterns. If you zoom into the elements too soon, you may miss the overarching pattern. So that was the case for the question with the crosses as well as the odd one out question. By looking at it from afar, you have a much better chance of understanding what the pattern is. Now for complex logic questions, involving many components. So in this case, it was the main course, drink, and dessert. Okay. Construct a table and fill it out as you go along the dot points. Okay. If you don't know something, underline that bit and come back to it later. Okay, so that actually might be useful when you come back later and you've already figured out some other stuff, and there probably will be a link there. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed that, and for next week, please keep in mind these key points. Alright, so I hope to see you next week. Take care.